Welcome to the Happy Doc, the voice of fulfilled physicians. This show is about bringing inspirational, creative, successful, and happy health professionals to you. Get ready to learn how you can be a happy doctor too. Hello, everyone. This is another episode of the Happy Doc. I'm truly excited for this episode. It's great because we have Dr. Neel Desai with us. Woo woo! What up, Neel?
What's up? What's up? Great to be back, and can't wait to tell our listeners about all the exciting happenings that have been going on with the Happy Doc over the last year? 6 months since we last talked.
Yeah, definitely. And in the big picture scheme, like over the year, Neel knows this. We have a great team behind us, and actually we had a wonderful team discussion literally like 20 minutes ago. We just finished. And it's just a really exciting, process of developing something from the ground up. It's great. How do you feel about it, Neel?
I feel excited. It's really cool. And the thing that I was telling Taylor and what I tell everybody when we're talking about this, the thing that really excites me is that it's something unique and different that I don't think it's really been done before. I mean, you have there are certain things like there are websites and podcasts and things about physician burnout. Well, you see all that stuff going around. But it's usually the difference is that it's at that one stage of medicine. It's you know what I mean? It's people attending physicians who are burnt out, right? Or it's at the medical student stage, or it's at the it's what we're doing here is we're taking it all together and basically saying, eat the peach at each stage from very early on to the very senior, so that if we can keep a timeline. So what I like to say is I work primary care. I'm a primary care physician, so prevention is key. Primary care. If we can prevent this burnout disease at the very earliest points, think about how many you could create a whole new culture. That's the whole point, is to create a whole new culture from the bottom up, from the earliest pre-meds who have the very first interest in becoming a doctor, health professional, to the people who are probably just coming out into medicine and be all right, what's the landscape look like now? Because everything has changed. So I think that's also part of it, is that we're actually going to be creating that landscape. And that's what gets my juices flowing.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Yeah. And I don't think, our listeners know this 100%. We're going to obviously share more of this as we keep going, but our team consists of, and this is not a joke, someone in college who's has an interest in the health field. We have a pre-med student who literally today was asking us hey guys, I'm trying to set up some time with being a medical scribe, so he's in the process of developing his CV and his resume to go into medical school. We have medical students, we have a couple residents, and we have Neel here, who's our attending physician. And it's just amazing to have that process. And we get to see, I think the cool thing for us is we get to see different perspectives about the whole process through different eyes, And
And it goes back to, it's kind of funny that seeing for different eyes, that was basically the basic of going back to that book I wrote. It was basically well, what does this disease or this condition look like from a surgeon's eyes? What does it look like from a geneticist's eyes? What does it look like from a physical therapist, a parent, a child, or a teen with this condition? So you kind of, when you put it all together, you have this kind of basically America. It's this beautiful mosaic of all these different stories and backgrounds and perspectives. And when you bring it together, it's this one person, one of my friends, he actually made when I described it, when I was writing that book, he said, it's kind of like a jeweled egg. Each one is its own little jewel. And you have this big egg of just this Fabergé egg where it's a big together. Every put it all together, it's something really beautiful. But you can have each individual thing. And that's how we can focus on each individual. If there's something broken at a particular point, you can focus on that with this bigger picture in mind too, because you're fixing that individual thing, a microscopic micro thing, you're fixing the macro thing at the same point. And that's what we talk about. Everyone talks about oh, we need to change medical culture. But then when you talk about it, it's disjointed in how they're only focusing on the tail end or the middle end. what about the beginning? Or, you're missing parts here. So that's why I really think this is, I have a feeling about this. I said, this makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely really exciting. And so one thing that came up as I was listening to you, some people might not have heard your episode. So can you explain a little bit about your book, The OI Connection?
Yeah.
Hi.
Hey. That's actually my son.
This is perfect timing.
Hey, Ethan, I'm on, they're interviewing me about my book and stuff.
We have to keep this in.
He's playing with my sword. He's playing with swords right now. So, all right, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Bored.
Oh, you're bored.
So
okay.
That is the perfect segue into the reason why you created this book in the first place.
Yeah. So the what was the question again? Sorry.
So for the listeners, why did you write this book in the first place?
Oh yeah. So just to remind everyone, my son Ethan has a condition called osteogenesis imperfecta, OI, and it's a rare tissue to be fragile. It can cause bones to break easily. Sometimes you'll see blue sclera, but it can cause other issues as well. But basically the bottom line was, the reason I wrote it was I found in going through that journey of talking to different physicians and surgeons and just navigating through the medical system, things that were really, and then what things worked. So what I wanted to do is write a book about what does really good medical care look like. That was one thing, but also educate. But in doing that, what I wanted to do was educate the medical and general public about this medical condition, OI. And basically just, it's kind of the same thing. Like you have all these little individual stories and everyone has something to offer to this learn like what works, what didn't, what I shared my fears, my hope, all my dreams, all these things for my son. And when it's and it kind of changes you as a different type of physician, I think, by going through that very difficult process. So that was kind of the reason that I wrote it. And it was kind of in writing it, kind of never thought I would have wrote a book before, but it was but it made me realize, hey, I like to write and it's something I like to do. And it was a creative thing that I didn't know that I had. And then it kind of made me, and I can actually, talk about medicine and be fulfilled in doing this part of medicine. So that kind of led me to these podcasts that, and then you eventually, it's kind of funny.
Yeah. I think is really amazing about this whole process too, is you took something personal and you made it a true learning experience that could allow, obviously it's not just about Ethan, but you had this personal thing and you let it grow into something that could help educate the masses. You helped educate the bigger OI community. And you also speak about themes about healthcare. So you connect, obviously you use that C word, but you're connecting so many things within the context of osteogenesis imperfecta. I think it's really awesome.
Yeah, it's like a microcosm for all of healthcare. And it's just it was interesting. You take a step back. But also I think that happens with a lot of our guests. It's I'm sure even with you, and you've talked, you have a very, I was thinking about this earlier today. You have a very tragic life experience or you hit rock bottom and then you're but then something happens, and it's that you hit rock bottom and you either reach out to someone and that person lifts you up and it kind of they shows you a point of light and you get headed on the right direction. Yeah. So kind of this reminded me what I wrote a recent post about. This kind of ties into what's happening right now. So it ties into the bigger picture. In the last episode, we were talking about how we were frustrated with the electronic health records and the technologies, and these other fields are way ahead. And in medicine, we're still stuck in the time warp, right? Yeah. From 30, 40 years. And so I was part of it was well, what if but now with doing this, we're using these podcasts to educate people and kind of giving people empowerment. But it's also you said at that point, I remember your line, you're it's we're in the dark ages. And it kind of got me thinking, because I'm always a student of history, philosophy, all this other stuff. So I was so what came after the Dark Ages, right? So like the Renaissance and then the Enlightenment. And Z-Dog's mentioned this a couple times. He's like, traditional medicine still hasn't gone through the Enlightenment. I'm like, so it basically tied into my New Year's post. I was like, dude, last year we basically had an awakening, like a Renaissance. Year 2, this is basically what we're calling the Enlightenment, because it's basically lighting a new way, a new path. And also, but Enlightenment, it was basically a cultural revolution, our science. It was about science, and just so what I think we're headed towards is basically what I'm trying to say. Part of this Happy Doc thing is part of a bigger thing, is what I'm calling like the Enlightenment, and basically the Enlightenment in the digital age of medicine. Basically like it's time we dragged traditional medicine kicking and screaming into the 21st century. Mm-hmm. How resistant. It's just, they just will not aiming to do anything, right? So, but it's time that we took the reins and basically use new technologies, use all these new ways of thinking, new ways of practicing medicine, because we're in the information age. So we can learn in new ways, like what we'll be doing through videos, conferencing, podcast, lessons, the internet, social media. This is where we are now. All these other marketing brand businesses and industries are doing it. Why haven't we? It's like,
exactly.
It's our time to do that.
Exactly.
So yeah.
And
so
no,
it's time for our enlightenment.
And I love that. Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree. Like, and I think a lot of students feel this way, where we're all seeing the inefficient. This is part of why the Happy Doc came about for me. And I'm sure we're going to touch on this with you too. You've already mentioned it, but a lot of this came out of, kind of exactly what Neel is saying. I hit rock bottom. It actually goes a little bit further, for me. Many people don't know this, but, I was a firstborn American citizen. My family is originally from Israel. And when they moved to the United States in the late 80s, early 90s, I was born in California. We lived there. And I don't share this a lot, but I really do think this will help, the listeners know why I'm doing this too. Like, it's really important to me. My family moved to Israel when I was 17 due to, some financial issues. And another aspect of this also is they weren't necessarily the healthiest. So the health part of that was, I actually wanted to learn about health because part of me wanted to learn all I could to help my family. And that's where a lot of it came from for me. And, I learned a lot through that process, and I ended up, wanting to be a doctor. But then, when my family moved to Israel, like, I felt super lost, and I went from living in California and I went to the East Coast. I went to Temple University, and I lost a lot of my motivation, and I became depressed. And I actually have an episode where I talk about this on the podcast too, where I came out of that and I decided I wanted to live, I wanted to work, I wanted to be something more than what I was now. And I think this all wraps around to the whole financial piece too, is I just want to understand in a bigger picture sense, like, how do we take care of ourselves, like, body wise, but also like, how do we structure our lives to make sure we take care of our finances? I don't want to be put in the position that my family had to leave a child basically by themselves. It was that's crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned that it kind of reminds, it's basically like the immigrant kind of story.
Yeah.
My dad tells me these stories about, like, so we've talked about this before, but like, I was born in India and I came here when I was like a baby, but my mom was with me back in India while my dad came to America. He got a visa and he was, he's basically going wherever he could go. He was going to rural Mississippi to kind of take these odd jobs while he was studying for his ECFMG, like all these licensing exams. But it was like, so he was here, I was born, and he didn't see me for like, he would send clothes when he got a residency in New Jersey, and would like send like clothes back to like India, when my mom was finishing her like last year of rotation. But it was like, and then she came over here like about like a year and a half later. So I was basically like almost like a year and a half, almost 2 years old
Wow.
before my dad first saw his son for the first time.
That's crazy.
And to me, I'm like, to think about that with my son, it's like, that's insane. You know, like,
Yeah.
you know, like, so it's always funny. So I always tell my younger brother, I was like, you don't know how hard it is. So it's like, and the same thing, it was financially struck. There were interns, residents, so you know, there were new people to this country, and it's like, so there's a picture of me, like, so my kids, my brothers, you know, they were born by the time my parents had private practice, so we're doing okay. But like, there was a picture of me with like a globe and pennies, and I'm like, so I was used, like, I hold up, it's like, do you know when I was your age, when I was a kid, I was like, I had like globe and pennies to pay with, and I was happy. Right? But they always say, yeah, we want to hear your globe and penny story again. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
But I was like,
or like my grandpa's story. Like, I mean, you know these stories, but like my grandpa would tell me, like, I had to walk 3 miles to get a piece of bread.
But it's so funny because, you know, it reminds me of the same thing when I see these things on like social media. It's like these attendants, like these residents don't know what like hard work is, or these interns. I was like, well, maybe you don't know. I'm thinking like, well, but then it kind of like, I kind of see both ends of it. But then I'm like, but then again, like, do you know how to like do smart phrases on an EHR or like,
well, right. I mean,
it's different.
So from that end, like, okay, so yeah, they had paper charts and they walked around and they had to do a lot of scut work and they had to draw all the labs and whatever.
Yeah.
So there's that end. But then on our end, it's like, well, our hazing is sitting in front of a computer all day, typing, having to deal with
data entry, doing data entry,
inefficient EHR systems. So, you know, back in my day, I had to walk around and talk to people. I'm like, well, at least you got to talk to the people. I'm just like staring at a screen all day. So
you're like, I gotta go on like, what is that, Bumble or Tinder or something to like go meet people.
Well, I'm hearing from the people now who like, oh, I'm so mad. I just missed the Tinder and Bumble stage because like, I don't know.
Yeah, but yeah, that was part of the thing. But the thing is, like, so I look at these medicals and I have conversations with them, and it's like, it's different because it's like, you're right, because it's like, but then what's going to happen when you go out into real world practice now? So this is part of why we're doing what we're doing, because what I'm seeing and what I'm observing is that we talk about this all the time. Is that like, okay, you may have the technical skills, now you'll have like the EMR or HR skills, which I still tell medical schools, like, I know one day you guys are going to fix this because you're not going to put up with this shit. Like at some point, you're going to be like, you're going to make it more efficient or do stuff.
Well, listen, I mean, I'm going to say this idea. If whoever's listening, please just make it happen because, like, God save us. I'm like,
I know.
No, like I have this.
You'll be a hero.
I have this image, and you don't even have to label that I made this up because I'm sure someone else made this up. But we have Siri, right?
Yeah.
Like we have audio recognition. Why can't there just be a little hub? I know there's going to be technical issues with this. It'll be tough. But if there was a little hub in the room that listens to everything you're saying.
Oh my God. I just said that the other day.
Perfect.
I was like telling my medical assistant, I said, why aren't we using like Alexa or like Siri or Google Home to like record our voices?
Record our voices.
Or ask Alexa, hey Alexa, what was the last blood pressure for this patient like 2 weeks ago? How hard is that? I'm like, I'm sure it's not hard.
Alexa, tell me the vital signs. Alexa, what current medications is this patient on for their prescription records? And then like, okay, Alexa, please record the physical exam, HWENT, normal cephalic atraumatic, doing the whole thing, right? And
that's how. See, that's the thing. I'm like, why are? But instead, it's just.
I think we're getting.
I know, and that's why I said I know where this is going eventually. I'm just impatient because I know where it's going to go, and I want to be there like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, right? Because we're pretty much that's the thing. Our generations we grew up with this stuff. But here's the
thing too is like we're seeing it, but and again, this comes back to the point of the podcast. We want to excite people into action and the possibilities. If you're hearing this idea and you're like, why aren't we doing this? And you have the capabilities, that's exactly it. We're not doing it because you're not doing it. Like the people who can should.
Yes. And the thing is, in this day and age, we've said this before, you don't need to be like perfect. It's like anyone can do it. I wrote a book. I'm like, I'm just a doofus. Like, come on. It's like, right. I'm like, if a doofus like me can do it, or a fool like me can do it, anyone can do it. You can start a YouTube series. You can do do it better, do a podcast, do something creative. Embrace your creativity.
Something dumb, for example, in my residency, and like the inefficiencies don't have to be big things. Like you can do little good things in your local environment. Small inefficiencies. People were complaining like we couldn't communicate effectively at the hospital sometimes because people's phones were dying. How hard was it for the hospital to invest in a charger in our call room for two different sets of phones, Android or iPhone, just to make sure that would never be an issue? Well, it was an issue for a while until someone brought it up, and all of a sudden it's an easy fix solution. Just small things like that. If you're like, someone brings up a problem and you're like,
small the thing that you're saying, actually, that was a solution. That's how you change medical culture right there. Small things. Obviously the big things, but to get to the big things, you got to do the small things first.
Right.
One small thing at a time.
But I think what happens, I've noticed this too, is I go into like brain zombie mode because like, especially sometimes when I work with supervising attendings, which like, I end up like being what we were talking about before, like essentially like a secretary sometimes with the EHR. And I'm not motivated to think, and come up with answers and responses. It doesn't always happen. I'm not telling it like,
but I think this is everybody at this point, like that are dealing with the EHR. That's what I'm saying. I've been saying this for years.
Right.
It's
And
like
you go into zombie mode and you forget how to think.
And you're just like, well, I like one of my like colleagues was like, it's like, well, we got this stuff because of this stuff. I got to deal with this shit all the time. I would be able to practice better because I got to deal with this thing,
Yeah.
but it's not. It's everyone's like feeling this. So it's like, so this gets back to what we were talking about, or what we talked about earlier in our previous meeting thing.
Yeah.
So one of the things that what I hear. I just talk to people from all backgrounds and things. And the number one thing, and this is a very common thing in medicine right now, and we've talked about this, is autonomy. The one thing people really cannot stand, I guess mostly around the world, but I think maybe more in America here, is when people tell you how to do things.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and it's like, and you think you're doing okay or whatever, but then like they want to kind of, no, do it this way because everyone's so OCD about it. They've done micromanage just for the sake of doing it differently. Yeah. Doing it their way or the highway.
Or doing things because like the insurance companies say we need to do something a certain way or
Yeah. But then you're just like, you're not, it's like you're doing, that's exactly what it is. You're doing mindless zombie, data entry clerk task. You're not thinking, you're not cognitively, like, if you spend most of your time doing that stuff, then you lose out on like, how am I going to foster a relationship with a patient and their family, or to get them to do what we want them to do? How am I going to, what are the best tests for this that are like not, that are most cost effective, or how am I going to use, is it appropriate? And what are they, as opposed to just ticking what we call tick box medicine, like check box medicine, check this box, check that. Did you get that one? Did they, but when you're not even thinking about the individual in front of you, this is what we talk about. It's like you're treating a computer screen and a pre-made laundry list instead of the person in front of you. Patients will tell you this is the same thing. You see all the articles, and we've been talking about this for the last year. It's been all in the thing. This is kind of what makes what we're doing different. What we're doing is we're giving an opportunity for people to say, enough of the bullshit. It's time for us to take medicine back, to give it back to the healers and the physicians and the people who are treating the patients, because it's all back. It's like I said, because pretty much it's pretty intuitive. Like I go back to like learning business lessons, because we don't learn. So I learned business. I was like, so if you learn from someone like, let's say someone like Richard Branson from Virgin Atlantic, he says, you don't, the customer is not always right. Or you don't treat the customer, you take care of the employee first. If you take care of the employee first, they'll take care of the customer. Translate that to medicine. You take care of the physician team, they'll take care of your patients. It will all work itself out. And you'll get, ironically, or I don't know what the right word is, but, and then from that, what all these people want, they want good metrics and they want good satisfaction and all this other stuff. That's how you do it. It's not that complicated. Take care of your doctors, take care of your nurses, all these people, right? Yeah. Treat them right. Give them some freedom, a little autonomy to do, be part of this thing. Don't micromanage them. Just let them do their thing. Mm-hmm. And then the patients will be like, I love that nurse. I love that doctor. They take all the time. They always ask about my family and this. I'm like, yeah. That's part of that human element that we were talking about. This number third thing, the human connection. In addition to and then in doing that, you'll get all your business reimbursement for getting good scores and all the compliance and all that. So it's self-intuitive. That's what I'm saying. It's like you don't need to overthink it.
And I want to touch on the whole autonomy aspect in terms of what we're going to be working on. I think a big reason we're doing this episode is to tell our listeners this is where we're heading towards. So besides just the podcast episodes, and obviously we're learning a lot of great information from our guests, and we're really excited to get awesome guests for this year on. Aside from that, we're trying to build out opportunities and places for people to have full autonomy again in the areas of education. And you also touched upon the other thing, which is the hidden curriculum. It's the education that we're not getting that is actually useful in building yourself and building your life. Things like what I discussed before, like finances. You talked about it, entrepreneurship, or building a brand and a message, marketing. How do you actually, take back your ability to create something using your skills? No one is teaching us how to educate ourselves in this way. And we're really excited to build out those lessons and the educational tools and the abilities to reclaim your autonomy, not just through education, but we're actually going to build something we're hoping will allow people to actually participate and communicate with each other. And that's a big concept. It's a little bit vague right now, but I actually can't talk about it until it's done, really.
I mean, what you're saying exactly is that you ask any physician, they'll be like, they lost, and all these the theme is we've lost our autonomy. It's guess what? This is the time we take it back, and this is that chance for you to take it back. And the other thing is I talk to medical students, and they're like, yeah, we don't learn anything about that. I was like, you need to know this, and this is kind of what we were saying is if you talk to a lot of if I talk to any medical, I'm like, how much do you know? I'll ask them, what field do you want to go to? I don't care, whatever. Just let me know what field do you want to go into. Interventional radiology, okay, fine. Orthopedic surgery, cool. The thing you need to know is how you get paid, how you get compensated, what's the business model, where you're going to go. So you need to go find out, go talk to wherever you're thinking about going. Ask these questions hey, how do you get compensated? Who because this is stuff that's going to be, if you don't know this stuff, other people are going to make these decisions for you, and then you can get taken advantage of. So, and that's part of that lose. So it's important this thing to keep yourself in control of these things.
Right. And we're not saying you go into medicine for the money. I don't think people do that really. No. But it's
just for knowing anyone else who goes into any other job needs to know how to get paid.
But that's a really good point too, is I do think there's people that are getting taken advantage of. I mean, we had Pamela Weibel on, and she's the physician suicide expert. She's the one going out and reaching out to these families. And, why is it that there's work and fields out there that put people at the edge? It's people that are getting taken advantage of or don't see another way out. And, that's what we're about in this podcast is we're telling you there are opportunities, there are ways out there.
I would even say not just a way out, but a better way.
Yeah. Not even out.
It's just lighting a new path to for both of us. It's it wasn't working and we changed direction. You talk about, you like your pirate ship or whatever analogy, when the big ship is going on the rock.
The Titanic is about to hit the iceberg.
That's the thing. We're trying to basically go somewhere where there's no ice.
So the Titanic is about to hit the iceberg, but then they hear the Happy Doc podcast and like,
turn ship, turn around.
Yeah, but so let's steer the ship towards open seas where it's still exciting and all that fun stuff. But yeah, like for us, when we interview a new guest, it's like opening up another pathway or opportunity we didn't know existed. I mean, I have to, there's a perfect example with Martini Jacobs. She was just on the medical student who failed out. She failed med school, right? That's like KO'd, knocked out.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like you're done. You lost. I'm not trying to say that she lost, because the point is she actually, because she developed a Twitter following, look, there's a skill that no one taught her.
Exactly.
She taught it herself. She opened up an opportunity to work with online med ed, with their social media department and marketing.
And this is something that in my age or 20, 30 years, I mean, the doctors that are teaching now, they had no idea about this stuff. Like nowadays, I mean, this is this is relatively new. Yeah. But it's like, I don't know anyone who they would have just done something non-medicine related or something, but she still got to use her medical whatever she had to find a new space because of like the digital age and finding new ways of using that. And that was kind of the point, is that, hey, we're in a whole new ball game here. I think that's what, and the thing is, that's the thing that's getting missed. And it's like, one of the guys that I wrote about, Dr. Darko, we connected recently. He does a podcast called Docs Outside the Box. Yeah. And he's like a medical influencer this week. And, he was talking about this. He felt like there are these secrets of these physicians who have done these things. And wait, they exist. That's the same thing I stumbled upon a few years ago. Yeah. And I was like, wait, there are people doing all these things and nobody knows about it.
Yeah. And I have to, so you just said the word secrets. So Tony, I was listening to Tony Robbins' podcast recently, and he's a huge proponent of this, and I totally agree. He says success leaves clues. So the cool thing, again, big picture wise, is from the medical student to the attending physician, we have the opportunity at every single level to learn what it means to be successful and take the clues from all of our guests. Not just our podcast, by the way. There's great podcasts out there. We're not saying we're the only one. No. But learn from all of them and take the clues.
So, sorry, finish. Yeah.
Take the clues and apply them to your life. It's a great experience. Like, it's changed us like a lot. So,
so this is kind of like, and it's kind of funny because I first met you through like Jamie Katuna, and I said, hey, I like what you're doing, whatever. And then she's like, and then she introduced me to you, and I was like, and then we kind of started this thing. And then but one of the things along the way, I said, what I had noticed over the last few years is this hidden curriculum. You're right. You can tailor your own curriculum with podcasts, videos. That's what we kind of posted in our YouTube channel thing, like different videos, lectures. There are different podcasts, and you can kind of tailor your own, no pun intended there. I don't even know. I just worked that in there.
That's fun.
But to make it personalized, basically what we call personalizing your education through this digital medium. That's kind of how I did it with OI, but you can do it through whatever you're interested in. Yeah. And you can amplify that talent that you have by learning from other people who are in your field and successful in doing that. So it's really, and we say this all the time, it's an exciting time to be in this. For those who are willing to take advantage of this digital age, it's a really exciting time because you could be at any level, like pre-med to med, to just do something, unique to you, because everyone's got unique talents and things.
Yeah.
It's like,
and the other thing too, and I want to remind people, this isn't just listening to a podcast episode or reading a book or whatever isn't just like some magic pill that automatically transforms you and you feel better. Like, we talked about this before, but it's not just the knowledge, we have to act. And so the big thing for us is not just that you guys listen to this passively. You guys have to be active learners. And what I mean by active is every time you pick up something interesting or exciting, you share it, you talk about it, you do something every day a little bit differently that makes you a little bit more excited about the work that you're doing. Even like going to see a patient tomorrow, or going to your, I don't know, to medical school tomorrow, or going to your class tomorrow, and just like smiling at someone and really connecting with them for a moment, just because we reminded you to do that. Like, we get so stuck on the day-to-day stuff, we forget like the whole point, the reason we do this is because we're trying to look at someone and say, hi, I want you to be happier. How can I help you? And you really mean it. And like, you want them to feel better. Like,
yeah, exactly. Just to kind of like add on to that, expand a lot, even for me, just to show that we like kind of like practice what we preach. Like, I incorporate that, and when I'm teaching, when I'm either talking to patients or I'm talking to students, I'm like, or talking to staff members or whatever, I'm trying to remember some of these things. So something from the podcast came up, or something you shared on social media or something, or something we'd written about. It kind of like, I just integrated it, and I was like, oh, that was really cool. Like something that Kevin Poe said, or something that Pamela Weibel said, or Dr. June Polly said. One of them, just to like, I was like, I remember I don't remember who said it. Yeah. But it's like, but it's actually making a difference in how I'm looking at my practice and stuff.
Yeah. So. You know, recently I was developing like our sponsorship pitch deck. Like, I literally like finished it up today, and what like I ended up with in terms of like our main purpose, I'm actually going to open it up right now to use the quote here. Our main purpose is we want to learn from the examples we always dreamed of having. Right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, it goes back to what Pamela said, like, be that doctor that you wrote about in your medical school essay statement, you know, that you always wanted to be. So it's kind of like we're actually getting back to that, to the basics, you know.
And to me, the whole point is like the quote, the happy doc is like it's almost like Batman. It's the symbol that like we can't actually ever become. It's the thing we strive for, to be the happy doctor. And each guest is like a clue or a part of the blueprint of the happy doc.
Yeah. So I saw something on Twitter. They were like, well, I don't know about happiness. I'm like, I think what we're saying, so I need to clarify.
Yeah. Please clarify.
Because I think there's this thing, people tend to just look things at the surface and like, they just look at the work. You know what I mean? They don't look, the problem I think nowadays is people don't have enough education enough on nuance.
Yeah.
And looking beneath the surface. They want to look at what's like, well, that, you know, that just says this. That's just about happy. I'm like, no, look, unwrap it a little bit. You know, unpack it. So the whole point is, so this gets back to my, like, the big picture stuff. When we're talking about happiness, Patty talked about, Dr. Patty Barrett talked about, what we're talking about is being fulfilled. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Really we're talking about pure fulfillment and doing what you're doing, and just really not even losing time, and just like, because you love it so much. Like, for example, when I was playing a guitar, like I'm taking my guitar lessons again. I can play it for hours. And
you're being in flow.
Yeah, you're in the flow, and you're like, or when you're taking care of patients, or you're seeing patients, and you're like, where'd the time go? That's what we're talking about.
Yeah,
you know.
And how do you build that? Like, how do you build that? How do you create an environment that makes you feel that way? How do you create an environment inside of yourself that makes you feel that way? And come on, guys, were we going to call it the fulfilled doc, or were we going to call it the happy doc? I mean, just
but that's the thing that kind of like sometimes I get a little. I was like
irked, like annoyed,
irked a little. I'm like, dude, it's like, do I really have to explain? It's like, but it's like that in this day and age, where it's like, can you just look a little bit before you make a super snap judgment? It's like, look beneath the surface. And what we're talking about is basically, so you look, there's this joy, and we basically talked about it in your intro. You're like, it's about having joy and fulfillment.
Inspiration, joy, fulfillment.
And doing what you do, and kind of like, but that all goes to like, basically like, I don't know, just like understand the context, that C word there, you know, because that context thing has been a really big thing lately, to like understand where, like, the context of you practicing medicine, me practicing medicine, you know, or everyone else, or wherever you are, what station. So, and where you are location wise too. So it's like, it's really important. Yeah, so that.
Yeah. So long story short, in summary, I mean, we're really trying to develop the tool that we've always wanted, and we're doing it now. And that's what's really exciting. I mean, and whether it's in the area of like health or finance or entrepreneurship or business or what have you, we're finding these awesome examples of people who are doing it right, people who are building themselves. And we get excited about that because we're finding new opportunities. We're learning the clues from their successes. We want to build out active ways to build autonomy. And it's a really exciting time for us to move forward.
Yeah, and it's also they get excited about, and it's like because we're all touching on a theme that we're all frustrated with, but it's like I feel like it's like, wait, we've just stumbled upon some answers.
Yeah,
and it's like for years we've been wringing our hands. We're like everybody's like burnt out, and like so we're gonna have all these things. It's like all these other things that are not working, but it's like wait, how about we talk to people who figured it out? Yeah, and get a bunch of them together.
Yeah,
and then be like. Get this collective pool of wisdom, which is kind of what we did with the OI community.
Yeah,
these treatments work, these therapies work, these physicians team. This is what works, what doesn't, and then kind of like put it into effect. And it's like and see what happens. And it's like and it's happening already because you're doing it kind of micro level with some things, and I've been doing it, and then these other people. So it's like we kind of collaborate. The more that we get people part of this together, so I think it's been established that there's a problem.
Yeah,
we know what the problem is. What the next step?
Guys, I don't think you know, but there's a problem.
Yeah, have you heard? Have you heard? There's a problem. So now the question is like gathering possible solutions. So that's where we are, and putting them into fact,
and not just gathering solutions, but starting to act on them. Right.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how. Just from like how I feel, just like even if it doesn't turn out perfect or it doesn't work out, just acting and creating opportunities like that in and of itself changes the game because you're not stuck anymore. You're deciding to work through it and to figure it out. So
just to give you an example, like whenever I get frustrated with something going on at work, I was like, I start thinking about like, well, how am I going to work on the podcast or the website or any ideas I can share with you or just kind of, and I'm like, it gets me in a different mindset. And I'm like, so no matter like, I may be a little annoyed with certain things that are going on because I said, you know what, at this point, at least for now, nobody's going to tell us what to do. Right? Like, it's like, we got our own little space where we're like, this is us, this is ours.
Definitely.
And it's like, and that's what we want to share with all our listeners. It's like, hey, that you can have this can be yours too, where nobody imagine that doing something you want to do because you want to do it.
Yeah.
And enjoying it and then getting, pretty much good feedback for it also and doing something.
Guilt-free pleasure of working on something that really gets you excited, that
makes a difference.
That no one can touch you on, that makes an impact, that helps people like that is the space we're working on, and it's just a real joy to be a part of that. Yeah. So with that being said, anything else we want to add before we?
Just I think that was a good summary of like where we are right now for 2018. So I think this is kind of where we're building out the next steps, and this is part of like the enlightenment in medicine now. So we want people to join this enlightenment movement kind of thing. It's what Pamela Weibel and Z-Dog and Dr. Junipali, all these people have been talking about. I think my point is that these things, it's now. It's happening.
It's now. And if you're listening and you have an opportunity to build that in your life now, the time is always now to start doing it.
Yeah, take the first step and let us know about it. And that's the other thing. We want people to be part of this and share it with us so we can like I've said, my word for like, 2018 is amplifying. So we can amplify what you're doing, what we're doing, and let's spread the word that like, hey, we have some ideas that I think that are working. So maybe putting it at a larger scale, see if it might help other people too. because it seemed to be helping a lot of other people.
Sure.
It's not perfect, but I think we have a few solutions here, a few ideas that. So the main thing is let us know. I would say share our posts on social media, email us, tag us,
leave a review on iTunes.
Yeah.
If you know someone who might be interested in being a part of the podcast to be interviewed, if you have any contributions, like we're looking again, for sponsors, we're going to add on our donate and sponsor page. It's a really exciting time to be a part of it. I know we're pumped about it. We just had our team meeting and it was really great to get ourselves organized, and 2018 is the year where we're trying to like really, not just talk about it, but be about it and take action to really make our dreams come true. And like, not dreams in like this, I went to bed last night and the dreams came to me idea, but like the dream of
that's not the way these things work.
No, but like
it has to come.
Like the dreams of like having a concept and building on it and working towards it. It was the same dream that we had when we wanted to be a medical student. We wanted to be a doctor. You had to work on it every single day. It doesn't happen instantly, but it happens, and you just have to keep working towards it.
Yeah. So and let us know if you're, and we'll take like any student, like if you're a student that's doing something cool, especially because I'm really excited about learning about what the earlier stages, like the pre-meds, the pre-meds, all these people, what they're doing to like how they look, because what we're trying to do is basically develop a new way of practicing medicine on the new landscape. Yeah,
so, inside and out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's it is exciting. So, but obviously we need your help. And also, the other thing that is, we want to know who our audience is. So let us know who you are. Right? Yeah. Like, are you a student, a med student? So we can kind of better, again, tailor to your needs. Right?
And what I know right now, based off of our email list, is we got a bunch of med students. We got, it's kind of interesting because we have the med students. We have like the 30, someone said like PGY 30, which I thought was hilarious.
PGY 30. Yeah, sounds right.
Yeah, we have people who are like attending physicians. I have like some physical therapy people in the group. We have registered nurses. We have some people that are coming in and they say patients. I hope, guys, I can't see you yet. Neel can see you, but you'd have to go visit him. So yeah, it's just an interesting group. Yeah, but let us know who's listening. Let us know who's out there. Participate. Let
us know what you like, what you don't like, what you like, what you want to see more of or hear more of. So we can kind of help evolve this, because the thing, one thing I do want to leave, again, going back to that history thing. So what I say is that, like, and I told you this earlier, like when I wrote about it, it's like with the whole Renaissance, the Enlightenment, what I want to say is that you either, and Kevin MD said this, either you're going to like pretty much have, like in writing about reputations and things, either you're going to write history, or you're going to have other people. Let me start over. Sorry. You're going to have other people write your history and your role in this medical history of where this is going, or you're going to write it, or you're going to be part of it and write it yourself. And that's what's going to determine where we're going with this medicine thing. So, it's up to you. But like, look, I would say, look, we're taking an active role in wanting to change that history, or that, that future also too. So
the happy doc writing history, period.
Writing history. Right. Yeah. So the main thing is just getting involved. We want you to get involved, because I think our first we got our inauguration thing year. Now the next thing is basically getting involved with connecting, collaborating, and that's where we're going to be going this year. And I think getting a lot of people involved in this thing.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Neel, for taking the time to hop in.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
And this is good stuff. Please let us know if there's any way. We already said everything. Just connect with us. We're excited about everything. Other thing I want to say is quick thing is Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. It's all now going to be Happy Doc Podcast. So at Happy Doc Podcast. Whether it's the Instagram, the Twitter, or the Facebook, it'll be at Happy Doc Podcast. You can still find
Happy Doc Podcast.
Yeah, at Happy Doc Podcast. You can still find us on www.thehappydoc.com. But we also got the domain name happydocpodcast.com, so you can also use that one as well. Okay?
Cool.
All right. Peace out, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to the Happy Doc Podcast, the voice of fulfilled physicians. If you enjoyed the episode, please drop us a like, comment, and share. Share us through the social media channels we have on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The handle is at Happy Doc Podcast. That's at Happy Doc Podcast. You can find our website at www.thehappydoc.com. Again, thank you so much for listening to the Happy Doc, the voice of fulfilled physicians.